Well, thanks, Phil. Appreciate the invite. I don't know how you can miss Steve. Just find that mustache, and I think you could find him anywhere. Really appreciate the opportunity to come out and share. My goal tonight is to really try to open up kind of that community, hopefully demystify a little bit of some of the things that are happening out at the base, and then build on that sense of community. And that'll be a really big one of our themes. Brought some other experts with us. We can certainly talk about how you all can help with all of our military families that are out there, because I do really think it is a call to serve that we choose and that our families are just a part of. They usually aren't volunteers, but they can bear the brunt of it. So hopefully we'll get into some of that dialogue. I promise we won't talk for 45 minutes, and if Chaplain Blackburn starts to go long, I'll cut him off. I would raise your hand if you've been out to the base. I'll just do a quick poll. All right, good. So then this won't be too foreign to you all, but I'll let you know kind of what's going on and where we're going. I first want to start with a video, though, real quick, that we've been kind of repitching kind of where we are and where we're going as a wing. So we'll roll that video.
During World War I, a young pilot, Lieutenant John J. Goodfellow, conducted a dangerous reconnaissance mission over western France. His plane was shot down and he died on a foreign land thousands of miles from his hometown of San Angelo, Texas. He was only 23 years old. As a tribute to his sacrifice, local residents renamed a newly built Army installation after him, Goodfellow Field. During World War II, the base graduated nearly 10,000 pilots. Many of them went on to perform dangerous missions in the service of their nation. Lieutenant Harry Brown scored the first aerial victory for the U.S. at Pearl Harbor, and Lieutenant Bill Farrow accompanied Colonel Jimmy Doolittle on the famous bombing raid over Tokyo. The pilots who conducted the secret and daring operation, which involved launching B-25 Mitchell bombers from the deck of an aircraft carrier, were known as the Doolittle Raiders. They were part of the 17th Bombardment Group. The Goodfellow Air Force Base would later take the 17th and become the 17th Training Wing. The motto of the 17th Bombardment Group was "Toujours en danger," a French phrase that means ever into danger. Those words help us remember our history and honor our legacy. While serving during Operation Iraqi Freedom, Airman First Class Elizabeth Jacobson, a Goodfellow Security Forces defender, was killed when her convoy was struck by an improvised explosive device. She was 21 years old. During her deployment in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, Intelligence Officer First Lieutenant Rosalind Schulte, age 25, was killed by a roadside bomb in 2009. She was helping Afghan forces gather and interpret intelligence. These examples remind us that as members of the 17th Training Wing, we are ever into danger. We train our joint service students to put out blazing fires during training, and when they graduate, they perform fire protection services at their operational bases across the globe. We train intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR warriors, to collect critical, real-time information for combatant commanders. It's a job that's fraught with dangers on the ground and in the air. Our permanent party members deploy to various hotspots around the world. We don't run from danger. We tackle it head on. We're raiders, always moving, ever into danger.
All right, that never gets old for me. So, I get a lot of questions. Hey, are you still doing a flying mission out of Goodfellow? No. And then I get young airmen who ask me, were you here and did you go through Goodfellow when they still had a flying mission? And I said, I'm not that old. That ended in 1958. It wasn't that long ago. We still have 2 runways. They are inactive, but we do drive on them and do PT on it quite a bit. I am Colonel Matt Reilman, so I'm originally from Highland Heights, Kentucky, so northern Kentucky up near Cincinnati, Ohio. I graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2000. So I was a classmate of Congressman Pfluger out at the Air Force Academy. Knew each other a little bit then. Pretty crazy that here we are 22 years later, kind of rejoined. And then I was an intelligence officer. So I graduated from Goodfellow Air Force Base in 2001. So June of 2001, I graduated, went out to Beale Air Force Base, California. And little did we know the world was about to change. And this is really why I love the kind of rebranding and what we're pitching at the Air Force Base now is we're really training all these joint service personnel, and I'll come back to that, to be ready day one to head ever into danger. Because I graduated from here, and 3 months later, I was deployed to the Middle East for Operation Enduring Freedom. So it's important to make sure that the instructors and everybody here at the base understands kind of what that mission is, right? Ready day one. And again, it's great to tie back to that history. We can trace our lineage of the 17th Training Wing all the way back to the 17th Bombardment Group, which were the Doolittle Raiders that launched the raid on Tokyo back in 1944. So it's a pretty great history and heritage that we can tie back to. So we're not doing flying operations, so what are we doing out there right now? The video kind of hit on it. I don't think people realize the level of training that happens out there. So all of the Department of Defense firefighters, any service is trained at Goodfellow Air Force Base. So they moved that mission here in 1993 when they shut down Chinook. But we have Marines, Army, other foreign countries, and of course Air Force are all out there at the Department of Defense Firefighting Academy. We also train all Air Force intelligence personnel. So if you are an Air Force intelligence person, specifically they brought back the intel officers in 1993 as well, you've gone through Goodfellow Air Force Base at some point in your career. I think there's one still on active duty that graduated from the old schoolhouse in Denver, but everybody else has gone through Goodfellow Air Force Base. And that mission went back on the signals and cryptographic side all the way back through Vietnam War. That's usually what people associate with the base. We also have all of the cryptologic language analysts, right? So all of the language analysts who fly on aircraft or listen to enemy foreign communication signals in their foreign language, train and come through the base. And then we also have a lot of the other things that we do for some of the intelligence community and some of those others. I'm really trying to avoid acronyms. So that's what I'm pausing a couple of times to not throw acronyms at you. So we have Air Force recruits go to basic military training at Lackland Air Force Base, and then once they graduate 8 weeks at Lackland, they get on a bus on Friday, 3-hour drive up here to San Angelo, and get off the bus. And then it's our responsibility, no matter how long the course is, to make sure that that very next Monday we get them settled, and then we get them into their training courses, whichever kind of intel profession that they're diving into. So that's kind of the role we play, right? We do the technical training for all of our airmen and then the officers once they graduate. And those courses can go anywhere from 4 months up to 7.5 months right now. And then the same said for the fire side. The joint, I've been blown away. So I graduated 21 years ago. There was a little bit of a joint presence on Goodfellow, but it's really grown in the last couple of years. So there's an entire Army Military Intelligence Battalion. So a battalion is the kind of squadron level, but there's a Lieutenant Colonel 05 in command, and they have over 1,200 students going through there annually, usually about 600-700 at any given time. We have a Marine Lieutenant Colonel as well, so an 05, and he has both the fire side and the intel side, and we have 600-700 Marines running around at any given time. So when I talk about the large joint presence, it just continues to grow. Navy, we have about 100 sailors on Goodfellow at any given time. And then we just stood up the Space Force detachment in June of this year. I think right now we have about 65 Guardians. So we do have a separate Space Force now in service as of almost 3 years ago. And we just have that new detachment out there. So great to bring in the Space Force as well. And we do have a couple of Coast Guardsmen that are running around every once in a while. So pretty large joint base. We might not label it a joint base Goodfellow, but we have a lot of joint personnel out there and a lot going on. My responsibility is not only Goodfellow Air Force Base, but I have responsibility in an entire group, so 1,200 personnel out at Monterey, California. So all the students go out there and learn their foreign language for about a year, year and a half, and then come here to learn the classified side, and then we send them on their way. a detachment out at Fort Huachuca, so down in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and then another detachment down in Corey Station, Florida, so we do some specialized intelligence training. But I always say this to our visitors, and we've had a lot of high-level visitors. I think the impact that we have on national defense just coming through Goodfellow Air Force Base is pretty significant. And I would say we have an outsized impact, because if you think about it, all those joint personnel, firefighters, or intel, there's not a decision that's made by a commander around the world without somebody from Goodfellow trained probably advising them. All the way up to your most senior levels of government, and then the brand new airmen, soldiers, sailors we send out there. They're all making a pretty big impact. So I kind of want to hit, that's the big mission. I'll kind of give you that overview. The second piece I wanted to talk about was that partnership. This was truly a dream job for me, because I can be a wing commander and an installation commander. And my boss is a couple hundred miles away, and nobody outranks me within 250 miles. So there's something to be said for that. But beyond that is the community partnership that you all bring, and you're always welcoming us with open arms. And that's something pretty special. It goes back a long time, and I'm certainly honored to be here at the church of Charles and Joanna Powell, where they attended, because they are certainly a legend on the base for helping save the base and that community partnership, and only continue to grow it. You might not know that Goodfellow Air Force Base here is the #1 base in the Air Force for community partnerships. So we have over 55 active agreements with the different colleges, the city, do a lot of sharing of resources back and forth. We save over $6 million annually by these agreements. But those community agreements are pretty important, and probably one way that we can continue to do what we're doing out here. Just in 2021, we received the Altus Trophy, which is a big deal for us. We're the only 3-time winner. Nobody else has won it twice, and we won it for the 3rd time, recognizing that community partnership that we have. So it's only here, and it's growing to the point we keep getting a lot of distinguished visitors, but it's great to continue to brag and kind of talk about what we're doing out there. I would also add, that's one of my goals, is to get out in the community some more, because COVID kind of disrupted a lot of things. So getting out into the community a lot more, and then trying to bring the community on base. So I'm glad to see there's a lot of hands up, but I know there's a lot of retired personnel or associated family in the room. I want to get you all back on the base and keep talking about what we're doing. I know there's a fence line and everything, and you have to have an ID, but we want to get out more in the community and get more of the community on base. So we're really striving to do that. So I'm going to hit a couple of the upcoming events and things we're doing, and then hopefully we'll have some questions at the end, and I'll turn the mic over to Annika next to talk about some of our military, family, and resources. So this holiday season is a lot going on. We'll keep the students around over Thanksgiving, and then we kick them all out. Most of them go home over the Christmas break, but this Saturday I'm really excited. We're bringing Santa's Market back. So you might have heard that in the past. This is the first time in 3 years that we're actually bringing it back to the base. So we're going to open up. You don't even have to have an ID. You can come on to the base, head on out to Santa's Market. We have over 80 different vendors. It'll be out at the DoD Firefighting Academy this Saturday from 10 to 5. I almost threw 1,700 out there, but between 10 and 5 p.m., we have everybody out on base, 80 different vendors. You'll see a lot of students and everybody else out there. I think it'll be a great event. That's our 40th time we've done that out at Goodfellow. So great to kind of get back to some of these partnerships and bringing people onto the base. I also want to talk about Operation Warm Heart and then the Goodfellow Spouse and Community, because those are 2 ways we can kind of continue to connect. We got a lot of brochures and handouts I left back there, but Operation Warm Heart is run by our first sergeants. So those are the E7 master sergeants in the unit who really are there to be the left hand of the commander and take care of the troops and morale. And they do a great job. It's a great opportunity to make donations, and then they just take care of the airmen. So with the Marine tragedy we had back in October, they took care of paying for his dad's flight to San Angelo to help participate in the memorial service and ultimately the funeral in Dallas. They just cut the check and took care of it. And they do that all the time with airmen or families who can't afford to fly or have family members in trouble. The Goodfellow Spouse and Community had some hard times like most other organizations during COVID. It used to be known as the Goodfellow Spouses Club. But the Goodfellow Spouse and Community is really trying to open their doors to work to support the local community and then support the base. So they have a thrift store on base where they sell it to young airmen or families in need. They've also donated a lot of clothes to some local schools. And of course, they're helping us really run the cookie caper this year. I know everybody's excited about making cookies. The students are excited about the cookies. We just restarted that last year, so the great cookie caper this year. shooting for over 20,000 cookies to distribute to all the students and some of the permanent party young service members on base, kind of make it a little bit more feel like home over the holidays before they head out for Christmas if they can get back there. A lot of that information is on the chamber website, but we're looking for the community, and I think they've had upwards of 30,000 cookies before. If you have an inkling to make some cookies, please make them or drop off at the Chamber of Commerce the 1st and 2nd. I think we'll accept donations at the gate on the 4th, and then we'll kind of start packing and delivering those throughout the week. But it's always amazing to see them light up when you pack over 6,000 bags of cookies and then hand them out to all the students and some of the younger permanent party airmen. So another great upcoming event, and then we'll have a lot more going on base. But I'll hand it over to some of my partners here to talk about it. But always great to come out to the community. We'll talk some questions and take some questions at the end. I know one of our charges is we're kind of all recruiters. So we're also making a big push to try to get those junior ROTC classes. You know, you saw some of the fun things we're doing, getting ready for some expeditionary skills. We're going to get the junior ROTC out there. We took Angelo State ROTC. We have paintball ranges and other things we can do, but trying to get some more motivation for the next generation to kind of come in and support the military. So with that, I'll hand it over to Annika for a few minutes and then over to Chaplain Blackburn.
Check. Good. I don't normally hold a mic. I can usually talk pretty loud. I am Annika Druin. I am with the Military and Family Readiness Center, which was formerly known as the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. So before I get into our programs that we have there, I want to piggyback off of the cookie caper. Show of hands if you still have access to base. Anybody? Yes? So if you'd like to volunteer and package some of those cookies too, if you can get on base, feel free to do so. So we're also looking for volunteers to do that as well. So again, Annika Druin with the Military and Family Readiness Center. I'm going to go over some of the programs that we specifically have that support our spouses and their family members. You know, we want to make sure our service members are being supported as well, but with that, we have the family members. So my specific program that I am the program manager for is the Personal and Work Life, which encompasses some like our Key Spouse program. We provide HeartLink orientation and then bundles for babies. So I want to talk about HeartLink and bundles for babies. Our HeartLink is a spouse orientation for new spouses or spouses that are new to Goodfellow Air Force Base, or just a spouse that really wants to get a refresher on anything that when it comes to military. So Military 101. Colonel Reilman talked about acronyms and making sure that he's not using acronyms, and that is like one key thing too with military spouses. When the service members come home and they are talking in acronyms, it's kind of like, whoa, what did you just say? So some of the things as far as what we talk about within HeartLink is just the resources we have on base and what spouses are able to utilize with resources on base. As far as bundles for babies, that's for our soon-to-be parents who are, you know, expecting, and we just really try to get them prepared for parenthood. So one big thing that we do within Personal Work Life as well is the first Friday of every month we put together a coffee and chat. So this is open to all spouses on base. Also, we really encourage that the community comes in as well to attend those. Last I checked, it was on one of the San Angelo pages on the calendar where it was being advertised. So we do that the first Friday of every month at the Bearded Barista. And it's just really a forum for spouses to come and get connected with other spouses on base. The goal at the Military and Family Readiness Center is just to make sure that there's that connectivity for the spouses to feel included within the base community, but also with San Angelo, because we do see that San Angelo is really supports Goodfellow Air Force Base. Some of the other programs that we have, and I did provide some brochures for the Military and Family Readiness that talks about some of the programs, but we have our employment. So we have our employment program manager who sits down with spouses for when they're looking for employment in San Angelo. So one way too is if you have where you're working at, if you have job openings, pushing that to us so that we can advertise that to their spouses as well, including volunteer opportunities, because when we have students come in, they bring their spouses, and sometimes maybe finding a job for 6 months isn't realistic, so they want to keep occupy their time. So if they have volunteer opportunities to do so, so please forward that over to us. We also have our personal finance, where we are able to sit down not only with the service members, but family members as well, whether it be looking at budgets or looking at retirement or anything to really encourage that good foundation when it comes to budgeting and their finances. So just to cover some of the support that we provide to our families, I always encourage, before I moved into the personal work-life program, I was at the program manager for relocation, and I would go talk to the students, and I would tell the students, if you're married and you go to your next base, make sure that you have your spouse check out the Military and Family Readiness Center, because there are so many resources that we provide to our spouses. And then one big thing with Goodfellow and being in the military, you look at deployment. So we want to make sure that our spouses are being supported when service members are deploying. So we do have our readiness NCO who makes sure that she pushes out resources to those spouses whose service member is deployed. But also, if there's anything going on that you guys can send to us to really provide that support when our service members are deployed, for the families to get engaged with the community, that's what we look for too, because we want to make sure that they are supported. One thing that we brought back after COVID was the Operation Kids. So that was back in October that it was put on, and it is an event for our military kiddos. We also had kids from the base, junior ROTC came and helped and volunteered, but it sets the setting for a deployment setting for our kiddos to see what their parents go through when they are deployed. Get it as far as looking at in-process or processing to deploy, going out to the FOB, and just really setting the tone of what it may look like. So.
You spotted. What's bottom?
Oh, shoot.
Forward operating.
What they said. See, I use an acronym and I'm not even military, so. Thank you. Chaplain Blackburn.
Good evening, I guess. So I'm Chaplain Blackburn. I'm the wing chaplain out at Goodfellow, and supposed to have 4 chaplains that work for me and with me, and I have 4 religious affairs, so they're enlisted folks. And so I love being a chaplain. I've got the best job in the Air Force. What's different about a chaplain versus a pastor? There's several differences, but one phrase that I've heard is, I'm a chaplain to all, but I'm a pastor to some. And so I have a Southern Baptist, I have a Presbyterian, and I have a Catholic priest. I'm down 1 chaplain, but that's part of my chaplain corps team, and they answer to their ordaining bodies. I wear a cross on my chest because I'm endorsed by a Christian organization as well. So I represent my endorsing agency, but if somebody came to me and they're atheist or they're Wiccan or they're something other than Christian, I will ensure that their First Amendment rights are being upheld, and I will try to provide religious accommodation however their needs are. And so that's kind of like one difference that I would say that exists with us in the chaplain corps. Want to kind of just highlight a little bit of the chaplain corps and what we do, and then talk a little bit about some of the partnerships. And real quick, I'm prior enlisted, so I was in the military as a cop, and I was in the military as a training manager. It was because of one chaplain that just was sharing life with me, and he just retired last year, actually, Paul Castillo. He was just sharing life with me, and through that, just watching him interact with others. He took me to the flight line. We were at Pope Air Force Base, and he handed out, because it's hot out there on the flight line, he handed out these popsicles, and he called them popsicles. You know, just investing into others. And that's what I love about the chaplaincy, is I get to invest day to day with people and just be part of their lives. Sometimes with joy and sometimes with hard times. And it's just a privilege and honor to just walk alongside and be part of people's lives as a chaplain. So what do we do? First of all, we do provide worship services. So my Catholic priest has a 9 o'clock worship service, Mass, and he also does daily Mass during the week. In fact, one of the cool things that he's trying to do is he's trying to get out in the units. A couple of weeks ago, he actually did a Mass in the unit. So where the airmen and the soldiers and the sailors are, he went out there to try to do Mass and to meet people where they were at instead of having them come to the chapel. We also have an 11 o'clock worship service. It's a Protestant worship service, so it's kind of a mutt service, a contemporary service. Everybody's welcome. Keep in mind, a lot of the students that are coming into the base, they're coming in for the first time, they're missing home, that type of thing. But we don't have enough people or resources to go, okay, well, here's a Baptist service, here's a Church of Christ service, here's all these different types of services. So we just can kind of combine it, and they can't get off of base when they first get there. They're stuck wearing their uniforms, they're stuck on base, and so we provide that worship service for them. We also, if I can't or my team can't do the worship service, we provide as we can. So for example, the LDS has some missionaries, and they come on base at 14:30 and have a LDS service for the LDS that can't go off the base. We also have a Muslim prayer room. Not a mosque, just a prayer room. And so for those, especially international students, they can come in and pray in there. But if somebody came to me and said, hey, Chaplain Blackburn, this is my religious need and I need it met, or I would like to have it met, we will work with the team on base to ensure that they have their religious practices the best that we are able to. And so that's one piece that we do is the worship piece. And sometimes also some people come in and ask like for different accommodations, like, hey, I'm pagan or I'm Muslim and I would like to wear a beard. And so we help with that process, or Jewish and wear a yarmulke or that type of thing. We help in those processes to make sure their religious needs are being met. The other another function that we do is pastoral counseling. And so one thing, if you ever are interacting with somebody, one thing that's really special about us is that we have 100% confidentiality. That means anything that is told to us stays with us. There's no exceptions to that. So we have a great resource over at Airman Family Readiness, or Military Family Readiness. They're called MFLACs. They're licensed professional counselors, but they have a duty to warn, harm to self, harm to others, and illegal activities. They could tell me anything, and it's not going to a commander, not going to a judge, not going to a lawyer, not going anywhere. It stays with me. And so the privilege that I have sometimes that somebody comes to me and says, Chaplain Blackburn, I have never shared this with anybody before. And to bring hope and healing and light in that situation, it is such a privilege to be trusted in that manner, and to be able to walk alongside those times and to hopefully see God's hand working in their lives. But also my airmen, my enlisted, have 100% confidentiality too. So I tell people, if my muscles, usually it's my rank, but if I intimidate them because of rank, they could talk to one of my enlisted and they'll say, you know what, Chaplain Blackburn's not so bad. He brushes his teeth. You can speak to him, that type of thing. But I'm not going to try to convert them. I will ask what their faith background is so I know what their resources are. But I will help them as best as I'm able to through that situation. The last thing that I would say that we're here for is spiritual resiliency. That is our thing. So the Air Force says for healthy airmen, and the Army and the Air Force, or Army and Marines have other pillars, but we have 4 pillars. So we have physical, and the military is really good with that, right? I work out, right? I'm buff, right? So physical, mental, so how do you take care of yourselves mentally? Find mental health, find somebody to talk to, maybe education or that type of thing. And we also do social, And so we lift up the social pillar. I like Corinthians. It says, bad company corrupts good character, right? Surround yourself with good people of your values and your mindset, and that can help through times. And then the fourth pillar that the Air Force says is spiritual. And that's really our wheelhouse. Of course, I believe our wheelhouse touches the others as well, right? But we help out in a lot of different ways. And so we have kind of, I would say, besides the worship, we have kind of two customers on our base. We have the permanent party, which are here all the time, right? I mean, they'll eventually leave. They're here for 2 to 4 years, sometimes more than that. But they're stationed here. They're mission support, like they're the cops that greet you when you come to the base, or they're the people that take care of the buildings, or they're the people that take care of paperwork, or med group, or those types of things. We have permanent party, and so we go into the units, we visit with them, we get to hear their stories, counseling, that type of thing. We hold events to make sure that they're taken care of. For example, date night. We do quarterly date nights, and oftentimes that's permanent party that comes to that. We have single airman events, and so that is also usually geared more for permanent party. We have retreats. And so we do different things for our permanent party to take care of their spiritual needs. The next customer that I would say that Colonel Reilman hit on a lot is our students, right? We have the fire and the intel. They're here from 90 days to over a year at times. And so they're not here for very long, but we have, for example, Crossroads, which is our student ministry center. And it's kind of a home away from home. We have Scott was out there last week, so he could tell you about it. He got to a little bit of a tour. It has a music room, so if people like to do pianos, in fact, your mom's or your grandma's piano is over in our Crossroads, and it's being used. And so they donated it, and so we kept it in there. But it has a music room, drums, guitar, that type of thing. They have a game system room. I'm starting to say that it's probably like a archaic one because all the game systems are old. But we have a game room. We have a movie room, big place with the pool table and ping pong. And so we hold different events. Like next week, we're going to have Thanksgiving in there, and so that's an example of a partnership that has happened. Paul Ann has donated some turkeys. They're smoking some turkeys and hams for us, and they're going to help come serve it a little bit. And then in the 22nd of December, before we kick everybody out, we're going to have a big burgers and brats, and Sierra Vista comes and helps with that. So there's opportunities of partnership. Actually, right after last week, Cassie, if you remember her, she said, hey, I would like to help out and go and do a coffee house. And so the sky's the limit. It's a very relational ministry. It's a very awesome ministry. So if you have ideas on something, hey, could we do this? Maybe I'll say, here's the right, left limits, but there's definitely ideas on partnership. And please pray for them. They're away from home. They're stressed out from learning and different things that are going on in their lives. And so they can always use your prayers. And that's something that you can do just daily or as the Lord leads you. So those are some ideas that I'm going to throw out and some things Colonel Reilman got up. So that's my stick to get off stage. So
That's the hook. But that was a good segue. I was going to say the one thing I neglected to mention, we have right now 25 airmen deployed around the world and another 44 on tap to go. So at any point, if you just keep us in our prayers, those probably I'll have about 44 out the door over the holidays, both Thanksgiving and Christmas, away from their families for 4 to 6 months. So with that, we'll go to questions.
All right, you mentioned Space Force a little bit. One of my best friends, former roommate, Colonel Dorney, Eric Dorney, was vice commander of the Space Force in Peterson. And it's almost like a meme and kind of totally misunderstood what Space Force is. Can you maybe give a little, I know it doesn't directly affect you, but when you mentioned it a while ago, I thought a bunch of people don't even know what the Space Force really is about.
No, that's a great question because I don't think people realize we have a separate space service now. So I think that's a great one to bring up. So 3 years ago, the administration made the decision we're going to stand up a separate space force that is going to be responsible for everything beyond 60,000 feet up into outer space and beyond. And they're going to be solely responsible for defending it and then operating it. I love the Netflix show Space Force. That's not what it is. They've cut about 13,000 personnel. So like the Marine Corps is kind of under the Department of the Navy, the Space Force and Air Force are both under the Department of the Air Force right now. They're still transitioning Army and Navy personnel over to be in a separate and distinct Space Force, but they're already bringing in new recruits and bringing them up as Space Guardians. And they're largely going to be at some of those places that are doing space operations. So flying and operating satellites, defending the satellites and networks here on the ground, and then making sure we're ready for that next frontier as things start to develop a lot more on orbit. And the main driver, and this is all unclassified information you can find out there, the main driver is our adversaries, China in particular, Russia as well, are developing a lot of technologies to destroy, deny, jam, degrade, and really take out our space advantage that we have as a military service and a nation right now. And that is really the main driver for separating a separate and distinct service just to focus on space operations and try to get ahead of our adversaries.
Will you cross-train some of them at some point, you think?
They did another call for personnel to kind of come over and train. Right now, they go through a lot of the same training that all of our other joint service personnel go through out at Goodfellow. So we'll get the Guardians. They go through a separate BMT, but at the same location, basic military training down at Lackland. They'll all come up here, and then they'll all go through similar training. So they're learning a lot of the same things. They're still all going to work together.
I'd be curious what linguistics they start doing.
Yeah, they don't have. Right now, they're doing a lot of the electronic and signals intelligence. They don't have a requirement yet for foreign languages. The Air Force will still kind of come doing that, although a lot of our student linguists are very proficient at Klingon. So if it comes up, I know we can handle it.
Retiree, new to San Angelo, just moved here a couple months ago. What kind of base exchange, base commissary do you have here? Is it open to retirees and stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Everything on base. We have a base exchange and a commissary right as you come in the south gate. So we talked about Airman Jacobson. So the Jacobson gate is the south one. You come right on base. That's our 24-hour gate, and you'll go right by the parade field, and then right there we have a gas station. We have commissary, BX. We have a bowling alley. There's quite a few different things coming on, but you're most interested probably in the BX and the commissary. I know on the Department of Defense side, they dropped a lot of the commissary rates to try to help out military families. So if you can come on as a retiree, they got a lot of great deals. They've done a great job kind of refurbishing the commissary. They completely redid the base exchange. So when he says the BX, that's kind of like going to Target, right? But the base exchange, they completely redid. We had the oldest one in the Department of Defense. And I forgot about it until I came back and they showed me pictures of it. They had like yellow poles holding up the ceiling. They finally refurbished it over the last 2 years. It's really nice. And we also have the only Dunkin' Donuts in San Angelo on base too. So that's a little bit of a brag point too that I'll bring up if you need a good cup of coffee.
So I know that as commander, typically you're assigned a couple of years or so at a location. How far are you into your service here? And do you already know if you're going to be heading somewhere else soon?
I do, yep. Unfortunately, as soon as I take command, and most of our commands, they're all 2 years. So as soon as I take command, I have an expiration date. So I'll change command next summer. So I already got here July of 21, so I'll probably rotate out, hopefully July of 23, but it'll be right at that 2-year mark. We'll bring in a new commander, new wing command chief, and we do a lot of rotations at that level. Mostly because it's really busy and there's a lot going on. I'm pretty tired already, but they're going to have to drag me out of here kicking and screaming because I really don't want to leave. And they're probably going to send me back to DC, which is another negative. But it's hard to beat here. I wish it was a 3-year tour, but it's a 2-year for most of our command teams. A lot of the other permanent party on staff are usually be here 2 to 4 years, as Chaplain Blackburn said, and then some can stay longer and extend if they want to.
Do you have a big ask beyond the cookie caper and praying and partnering with the chaplaincy that you would like to ask of us?
I think those are probably my 2 big ones right now, and then it's just with this team that we brought here with Annika and then Chaplain Blackburn, it's what else can we do, right? What else can we do? Both bringing volunteers out to the community, and then what do you all want to do with us, and kind of coming back onto base or doing things like, we call them burger burns, usually because the burgers get burned, but making some food or snacks or bringing people on, just bringing that sense of community back on base. We're open to a lot of those ideas. Things kind of got closed off for a couple of years, and I really want to just open things back up. So, great ideas or kind of those comments, all about doing a lot more of that.
And I will say too that we can get you on base. So if there's only a few people that have base access, that's not a problem. We can get other people on base for events. So.
What can we do when we see groups of airmen out in the community to embrace them and let them know that we appreciate them being a part of our community as short as they're here?
Yeah, I think just saying thank you and saying just that to them, right? Thank you for your service and defending our nation. It means the world. I hear it all the time. I know I'm not asking you all to do this, but I tell everybody, if you wear your uniform in town, usually somebody picks up your meal. And then it always annoys me because I don't know who it was and I can't go say thank you, but that happens a lot too. But just at a minimum, going up and saying thank you, and then just asking them how they're doing. I think that's always a great opportunity. Say thank you, see how they're doing, and maybe you have some good recommendations on where to go get some good barbecue or tacos or something else. I always challenge them. Hey, you're here for a short amount of time. There's a lot of great things to do in San Angelo. You can kind of give them some ideas of what your favorite things are to do as well. Great question.
I know too, when we talk about different things that are happening in San Angelo, even if any of you are included in on different events that are going on within the community, of pushing that to us so that we can push it out to our, and I'm specifically thinking spouses. I send out a newsletter every month to the key spouses, and then the key spouses trickle down. And as far as key spouse wise, it's a commander's program. The key spouse program is a commander's program. The commander of each squadron appoints a spouse or an individual as their key spouse to really represent the spouses within the unit. And I say the key spouses are the eyes and ears of the spouses. So if they're bringing up any trends, concerns, or anything that may come up within the squadron that needs to either be discussed or addressed or anything like that. So I send out regular emails to the key spouses that then are trickled down to the spouses. So any type of events or anything that can be pushed out to the spouses is fantastic. I know that they're always looking for things to do, especially family-friendly events. So.
If we were to think outside of the box here, and I understand that you can get us on base, but does it have to be an event for us to come out there? What if we wanted to invite people to come to a Bible study and be there so they would not have to come to us?
Sure. We could do a Bible study. I would say Bible studies really ebb and flow based on who's there. So we've had several Bible studies start, and then when people go away they graduate and stuff, then the Bible study kind of goes away. So it really is not, and then if they're busy with school, that type of thing. So Bible studies have not been as successful. We've had them, and we will do them if somebody has a request. But the reason I go with more of events is it's much more relational. It gives you an opportunity to, not just serve, but if you bring enough people, you could just, serve some burgers and just have time, hear their stories, and just, retirees, even non-military retirees have wisdom and stories that can invest in others. And so just building that relationship, that's why I lean more towards events. And I will say it's more pluralistic where everybody's invited to that. But we can do a Bible study, we can talk about it. I just haven't seen them as successful here. But we could certainly talk about that.
Like on a Saturday night or Sunday afternoon or something, if somebody wanted to do the burger, how many people would we be looking at those things?
It really varies. If we get, we've had like small 50, and then like next week on our Thanksgiving meals, sometimes we have 200. And so it really can vary. Weekends aren't always the best, sometimes evenings after their PT type of thing. And sometimes like when Paul Ann and Trinity Lutheran were doing their, they were doing coffee nights, it was regular, and I would say we had 50 to 100 people. Like they did it once a month each, and like on a Tuesday or Thursday or something, and they probably had, I mean, they just had music and coffee, and people were out there, and it was good times for that. So, but we can be creative on that, and I'm not naysaying the Bible study. We can always give it a try. Maybe having a consistent Bible study could help with that as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know that you recently had a lot of students that were housed over at Angelo State. And I know that only because there was a group of about 6 of them that walked over here to church every week. And my wife and I kind of adopted them and spent a lot of time with them. Are there still students there, or are they back on base?
We do. We still have 96 students that are living in Angelo State University dorm. So that was the first of its kind agreement that we had between a U.S. Air Force base and a college, right, a university out there. We still do have them. And I don't know how much longer we're going to do it because I have some extra bed spaces on base now. We're kind of looking through that. But yeah, they should be there at least through next summer. So there's still 96 over there.
I was just thinking that might be a natural thing we can do, is because they're right here.
Yeah.
And a way for us to, maybe it's through our campus center, or it's just us doing some department to help serve that.
That could certainly work. Thanks for adopting the 6 that you were adopting at that point.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Well, one thought is as a community, we're very appreciative of the base, and I lived through the base closure fears and participated in the signs as we had lines of people
Awesome.
out on the highway trying to get our base off the list, and we're very thankful that happened.
Thank you. Thank you for getting out there during those events. I think it's really important. We kind of talk about it. Goodfellow Airfield has been out there since 1940. So Goodfellow Air Force Base is older than the United States Air Force. And I don't think everybody fully understands the impact of everything that happens out there. So truly appreciate that you all are doing that and fully embrace us. And I think word is getting out of how important and just amazing that community collaboration is.
Over on the table, there are some brochures and handouts and things that are talking about some of the stuff that they mentioned. So be sure you go by there and look at that. Here in a moment, come and greet these guys. Let's show them our appreciation for tonight.